You know what's fascinating about emotional timing in relationships? It operates on a delay, like your internet connection buffering right before the plot twist. Two people who supposedly share everything somehow end up experiencing the exact same anger on completely different schedules. Imagine you're finally over it. You've done your brooding, processed your feelings, maybe stress cleaned the entire apartment. You're ready to be kind again, to reconnect, to apologize for the silent treatment that lasted 2 weeks. You extend the olive branch with genuine warmth. And that's precisely when your partner decides it's their turn to be furious. Perfect timing, right? Just as you're coming down from your emotional mountain, they're strapping on hiking boots to climb theirs. Here's what's actually happening behind this maddening pattern. While you were icing them out, they weren't just sitting there peacefully waiting for your mood to improve. They were accumulating their own resentment, building their own case, drafting their own mental list of grievances. Think of it like emotional compound interest. Every cold shoulder you gave them earned interest. Every clipped response, every time you walked past them without making eye contact, all of it was quietly adding up in their internal ledger. But here's the twist most people miss. They couldn't express their anger while you were already angry, because that would escalate everything into a full-blown war. So they waited, suppressed it, held it in like someone holding their breath underwater. You were the original aggressor in this round, so the relationship could only handle one angry person at a time. Someone had to be the stable one, the calm one, the person trying to de-escalate. That became their involuntary role. Now picture yourself as that second person for a moment. You've spent days or weeks tiptoeing around someone's inexplicable coldness. You've absorbed their bad mood, made excuses for their behavior, convinced yourself to be patient and understanding. How do you convince yourself not to explode during that waiting period? You make silent promises. You tell yourself that once they calm down, once they apologize, then you'll be able to express how much their behavior hurt you. So when they finally come around with apologies and warm smiles, something unexpected happens inside you. Instead of relief, you feel permission to finally acknowledge how awful the last 2 weeks actually were. Permission to stop performing patience. Turns out what looks like revenge is often just delayed emotional processing. They weren't plotting to get back at you while you were angry. They were simply surviving your anger by postponing their own. The mechanics are almost mathematical. Person A gets angry, person B absorbs and waits. Person A calms down, person B finally releases. And the cycle perpetuates itself, like the world's most exhausting pendulum. Before you know it, you're trapped in this bizarre emotional tag team match where only one person gets to be upset at a time. No one planned it this way. It just emerged from the simple fact that two people being angry simultaneously feels like relationship Armageddon. Some couples live this pattern for years without ever naming it. They think they just have terrible luck with timing. They wonder why they can never seem to be happy at the same moment. But here's the kicker about delayed reciprocal anger. It's not actually about the original issue anymore. When your partner finally melts down after you've apologized, they're rarely upset about whatever made you mad in the first place. They're upset that they had to be the emotional adult while you threw your tantrum. They're upset that they suppressed their feelings for your comfort. They're upset about the unfairness of having to wait their turn to feel things. Cue the confusion on your end. You made amends, you apologized, you tried to reconnect, and suddenly you're the villain again? What gives? This feels like punishment, like they're keeping score, like they're intentionally sabotaging your peace offering. And in a way, they are keeping score. Not consciously, not maliciously, but keeping score nonetheless. Every hour you spent being cold registered as a point against you, and now the bill has come due. The real twist is that neither person is entirely wrong. You had legitimate reasons for your initial anger. They have legitimate reasons for their delayed response. Both of you feel victimized by the other's timing. What's really happening is a failure of emotional simultaneity. Healthy relationships require people to process and express feelings in real time, even when it's uncomfortable. But this pattern emerges when someone decides that honesty during conflict is too risky. So instead of saying, "Your anger is making me angry too," in the moment, they wait, they calculate, They tell themselves they'll address it later when things are calmer. Except later never works because by then you've already moved on. As critics of this pattern point out, it's fundamentally unfair and keeps relationships stuck in perpetual conflict. But defenders argue that someone has to be the stable one during a crisis, even if it costs them later. The cycle persists because both people believe they're doing the right thing. You needed space to process your anger. They needed space to avoid escalating yours. Everyone's intentions were good, but the outcome is a relationship that ping-pongs between different versions of the same resentment. Despite all the relationship advice, books, and therapy techniques available, couples still fall into this trap constantly. Why? Because in the heat of the moment, suppression feels safer than confrontation. Waiting your turn feels more mature than simultaneous chaos. Here's what nobody tells you about emotional reciprocity in relationships. The person who waits to express their anger isn't necessarily more evolved or more patient. They're just differently anxious about conflict. They've learned that expressing anger during someone else's anger episode leads to terrible outcomes, maybe from childhood, maybe from past relationships, maybe from this relationship. So they've adapted by creating this delay mechanism. And you've probably learned something similar from the opposite angle. Maybe you learned that your feelings are so big and overwhelming that you need to fully process them before you can consider anyone else's experience. So you take your time, assuming your partner is fine waiting. The irony is palpable. Both people are trying to protect the relationship by managing their anger carefully. Both end up destroying the relationship's peace by ensuring someone is always upset. What makes this pattern particularly insidious is its self-reinforcing nature. Each cycle proves to both people that their strategy is necessary. You get cold, they wait, you apologize, they erupt, and you learn that your partner is unpredictable and holds grudges. Meanwhile, they learn that you're volatile and need to be handled with kid gloves during your moods. Both of you gather evidence that the other person is the problem. Neither of you sees the system you've built together.